Welcome to Deep Dive by House of Undine, the wellness podcast where peace meets power and depth drives everything. Interviews, insights, meditations, and more. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Deep Dive by House of Undine. So happy to have you. I hope you're already having a great day, whatever day it is. Today, we are doing an archives episode. So we're going to do a recap of the book we read in June. And we're going to actually let this book take us into something deeper, which we are actually really going to be talking about hospitality and what it means to take care of people, where we might have lost that, and why hospitality really matters more than you may think it does. So grab a drink, grab an espresso, grab a little spritz, and let's dive in. All right, everyone. So the book we read for June is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And he was the frontrunner of 11 Madison Park for a very long time. He no longer is, but this book is about how he took over 11 Madison Park and turned it into one of the best restaurants in the world. And surprisingly, this book was a little bit different than what I thought it was going to be. But overall, as a club, we rated this book very high. In fact, it was one of the favorite books of the year. And one of our members gave it a 5-star rating. So this book was definitely a hit. It's different than all the other books we've read, which is kind of the point of the archives for me. This isn't just about reading spiritual books. This is about reading all kinds of nonfiction so we can all learn and grow in all different parts of our life and be exposed to different ideas and different things. So love that. Love that about the book club. And what she really loved most is how thoughtful he was and how it talked a lot about gifting and about how you're making people feel and really noticing people and noticing what they need. And so much of this book was about thoughtful gestures, thoughtful actions, and being thoughtful in the way you're not only treating guests, but being thoughtful in the way that you're treating your employees and how everybody functions together and how to make everyone really a cohesive team. But what was surprising to me is when I picked up this book, I really thought it was going to be all about hospitality and really a lot more about the restaurant itself. But what it really is at the end of the day, this is a business book. So this is really a lot about management, which I found to be really interesting. It was a different turn to the book. It wasn't what I was expecting. A lot of this was about management and how he managed people and the rules he implemented in order to make sure that his team was running properly. And it's about the Michelin star experience and Michelin star restaurants and the effect that they have on food and the community at large. So it was a very cool book. And one of his signature stories from the book is how there was one evening at 11 Madison Park where he overheard tourists talking about how they had never grabbed a classic New York street hot dog. So he takes it upon himself to go outside, buys a $2 hot dog, and serves it as a plated course for them. And he said that nothing he ever served got a bigger reaction than the $2 hot dog that he stepped out to buy them. And the reason this is such a big portion of the overall part of his book is that everything he did at 11 Madison Park was about how he made the clients, the people who came in, how he made them feel and how he really paid attention to them. And he would make these really incredible things happen as part of this restaurant experience, which made it so much more than just the food. And there are 3 things that I found pretty interesting about this book. And again, surprised because a lot of this was much more business related. But he starts off with kind of this idea of the 95-5 rule. And it is about being disciplined with 95% of your budget so that you can be completely unreasonable with the last 5% on surprising, generous stuff for not only your clients, but also for your employees. And I kind of really love this rule. I have had to really work on finances. Admittedly, it's not my strong suit. I really love to spend the money, hate a budget, but need to have it, you know? And I just found it really cool to think about it like that. Like you really have to cut corners where you can, not really sacrificing things, but making sure that you are being very disciplined with that so that you do have that money left over to do like the really cool wow stuff. And he did that a lot, not only with the people who came into 11 Madison Park, but also with his employees. So he would save that money to throw really amazing parties for his employees when they would have big accomplishments. he would obviously make really cool things happen for the people who came into the restaurants. I mean, they would go as far as to like look up the names of the people who are coming in, do deep dives on their Instagrams or their socials, and like curate the experience for that. So I found that to be very interesting and something that I really learned a lot from, because a part of what I want to do with House of Undine is really make special experiences. So I found that to be very informative, that that is actually how he made a lot of this happen. Granted, it is a Michelin star restaurant. His clientele is already paying a ton of money for the food that they're having. So he has a little bit more of negotiation weight, when he was making these deals with people who doesn't want to be a part of a Michelin star restaurant. So got to take that into account. But I do think it's a useful tool. And the number two thing he talked about, which I don't know how I feel about it, he has a daily meeting that he swears by. And he thinks that every company, business, whatever you are, should have a daily 30-minute team huddle. And that way, everybody would have great customer service. Now, I understand how that would work with something like a restaurant industry. And to be very clear, his entire experience is in hospitality and restaurant industry. Since leaving 11 Madison Park, he's obviously gone on to make a book and done different things. But upon writing this book, his entire career has been based on hospitality and the restaurant industry. So when you have such an intricate team driven service, and most of that service happens at a certain time in the evening, and they're already doing things like, I think restaurants have dinners, like family dinners or something, like pre service. So I can understand how you can work that in when you have that extra time when people are just like prepping and getting ready. And then you just have this 30-minute meeting to prepare them. And you also have to make a lot of announcements, like what wines are there, like what kind of food you're bringing in, all sorts of things. Do I think that works across companies? No, not really. I think that pretty much in corporate, meetings are overdone entirely. I think people spend all day in meetings and can't even get their work done. And there's no need to have a 30-minute meeting. And even in my own corporate job, that would be such a waste of time. Now, do I think that you need to have a meeting at least once a week, especially given how much everyone is working from home all the time? Yes, I do. Even if it's annoying, and I've had to accept this as I've gotten older, you really do need to make people feel like they're a part of something, and you need to make your employees feel like you care and like you're there. As much as everyone thinks that people want to be dealt with in a laissez-faire way, in my experience, when you become so far removed and you're not involved at all, that's when things start to kind of run amiss and people feel like no one's paying attention to them, and they like create their own alliances, all kinds of weird stuff happens. So I think that there's a balance. Do I think that people need to have a 30-minute meeting every day? No. Do I think that people need to have a meeting a week? Probably. Or some people like to employ like the 15 minutes every morning. I don't know. I think it really depends on where you're at, how big your team is, what you're doing. If things are starting to fall off, sure, you need to start implementing more meetings. But overall, I think majority of people in the corporate world are over meetinged, and they need to have less of them, and they need to be prepared for the meetings. I am kind of a believer in like half Google, half Jeff Bezos, where Google's all about a 15-minute meeting, and then any meeting past 15 minutes, you're really just wasting time. I do believe that. I think most meetings that need to be have can be done in 15 minutes. And if they're not, it's mostly like pleasantries that are being had. And then number two, if you are like Jeff Bezos, I've read, has this concept where you write a memo before the meeting. When you get to the meeting, everyone at the meeting has to read the memo, and you have time to read the memo so everyone is on the same page. I actually think that's a fantastic idea, and I think that should be employed more often, because most of the time when you come to meetings, half the people aren't prepared, half the people don't know what's going on, no one's really read what they're supposed to read before, no one's looked at the meeting notes, and they're all just catching up. And a lot of people like to fake it and pretend like they know things they don't, and say things that are not even addressing the issues at hand. So I am kind of an in-between. I think there should be, like, if you're going to have a longer meeting, I think there should be a certain period of that meeting where you're all making sure you're on the same page. And if you're not going to do that, I think that meetings really need to be condensed. And then you have separate time for people to hang out and do team building. Like, I don't think that meetings need to constantly be team building activities. I think that those two things are separate. Anyways, it all depends. And every industry is different and every team is different. So I just think that that can go different ways. And then the third thing that he talked about, which I think is very true, is he talked about feedback. And he said that you need to praise your people, but you also need to give the hard feedback early on so that it doesn't turn into resentment and things don't go on for longer than they need to be. And I fully agree with that concept. I think that you really need to praise people because people need to know when they're doing something right and they need to be appreciated. But I also think that when people are doing something wrong, you need to be very careful in the way that you address those situations. Like, you need to be mindful of the way you're approaching that and the way you're giving feedback. You don't have to be mean about it, but I do think it's important to nip it in the bud early on so it doesn't continue. And also, so you build a rapport with people where they can come to you with feedback, you can come to them with feedback, and it's a conversation being had, not constantly criticism. And it's more about getting used to having hard conversations because so much of life really comes down to the hard conversations you're avoiding to have. And that's where resentment gets built up. That's where frustration comes from. That's when, like, you think you're being the cool boss because you're so easygoing and letting things go. And then one day you get pissed because no one's doing their job right. And you're like, why isn't anyone doing their job? And it's because you thought being the cool person was like the way to go. And I really do believe that receiving feedback is a skill. You have to be able to receive criticism. None of us are perfect. And the only way you get better is by being able to receive the criticism when someone says you're doing something wrong so that you're aware of it. Because most of the time, none of us are aware that we're doing the annoying thing or we're not doing something right. And I would much rather be told early on that these are the expectations so I can at least try to meet them rather than taking it personally every time and just getting mad every time somebody tells me that something is wrong. It's the only way you grow. Being praised is awesome. It's always nice to hear when you're doing something right because it means you're on the right path. But the most transformative information you'll ever get is the bad stuff because then you'll be like, oh, okay, like this is how I actually get better. And most people can't take bad feedback. They take it super personal. They get really upset. They think it's like a hit at them. And typically it's not. It's just about the work. And I feel like in my careers, I've had to really get good at that and I have to let things roll off my back. But I will say what you also need to get really good at is being discerning about the feedback that you get. You need to be aware that a lot of feedback will also just be personal preference. And there's a difference between how somebody wants something to be done versus how something is supposed to be done. And you don't always have to take criticism. Sometimes there are going to be people that just don't like you, and that's how it's going to go. You're not going to jive with everybody. But if you respect the person that's giving you the feedback, it's important to listen. And especially if it's somebody who's doing what you do and they do it well and you like the way they do it and they're giving you feedback, it's something to take into account. Do you need to take every piece of feedback that's given to you? No. But you need to at least be open to listening to it, registering it, understanding it, and then deciding for yourself whether you want to take that or not. But it's a useful skill. And I do think creating an environment where from the jump, it is clear that we're going to have good conversations, we're going to have bad conversations. And a bad conversation does not always mean you're going to get fired. It's just training and it's figuring each other out and making space for those difficult conversations that transfers into all parts of your life so I found that to be very important and I definitely agree. Overall, definitely recommend the book. But here is really where that book took me, and really a lot of the reason why I presented it as an option for the club. It's really about customer service and how you treat people and how you make people feel and how important that is, and how he really built this business and turned it into this top tier number one in the world restaurant because of how he made people feel. And the gold standard for that is really the Ritz-Carlton. And it's not surprising, it's the Ritz, but their whole motto is "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." And I find that to be a very interesting motto because it's not only saying that that's how we want to treat the people who are coming into the Ritz as if they are like high class individuals, but it's reminding your employees that you too are also a high class individual. And it's not only how we're making our clients feel, it's how we're making you feel. And you are also respected and you are also important. And the hospitality you give to other people is important. So it's not about people being servants to other people. It's about mutual respect and kindness for one another and how treating other people matters. And something that I didn't know is that the Ritz is apparently so good at this that they are actually industry leaders. So they run a leadership center that trains hospitals, banks, and even car companies on learning how to make people feel like the Ritz makes people feel. And this isn't just like a nice, cute thing that you can do because customer service is nice and cute. There is actually a Harvard study that found that cutting the number of customers you lose by just 5% can raise profits anywhere from 25% to 85%. And companies that lead on customer service experience beat the stock market by hundreds of points over time. And that is so true. When you look back on your life and the brands and the people that you subscribe to, it is typically because you were treated well, you're respected. I worked at Nordstrom for a long time. I worked there in college. And it to me, it was really in the prime of Nordstrom because Nordstrom has changed a lot since then, and it's not to me the way that it used to be. However, when I worked at Nordstrom, customer service was key. It was really everything that Nordstrom was based on. It was making sure the client had a really easeful experience, doing whatever you could for the client, and really taking care of them. I mean, there were stories in Nordstrom of how people returned tires to Nordstrom once and they accepted them. Eventually, they got rid of that after I worked there. And now it's kind of annoying to return stuff to Nordstrom. But at the time, it was very easy to make a return to Nordstrom. You would bring it in, like, we would make that as seamless as possible for you. And we would take care of you. We would have parties every Christmas for the clients. Like, we would send out personal thank you notes. We would have top clients that we would call, invite in. We would have like special time set aside for them where we would walk them around. There was so much built into how you made them feel that it was such an important part of Nordstrom. And just as a shopper of Nordstrom, that's why I loved it. You would go in, it was always really high class. They would have a piano player there most of the time. I mean, everything they did, it was just a reliable service. So it was such an important part of Nordstrom. And when you think of the companies in the business, like Costco, perfect example, people love Costco. And it's because they treat their customers right. They make returns pretty easy. And everything that's Kirkland brand is reliable. So I just think that customer service is such an important part of every business. And another interesting thing, and this is really talking about luxury hotels and about how you make people feel. I think an important part is about making people feel like family. And if you've heard anything about the Aman hotels, they're these like really high-end hotels. They're a lot associated with wellness now too. And they do really well because their most loyal guests call themselves Aman junkies. And reportedly, about half of Aman's bookings are repeat guests. And they pull this off by keeping notes on what their clients love. So it's your pillow, it's your schedule. And a returning guest is never asking or telling them things. So they service your room while you're out, so you never see them work. The Four Seasons trained staff to greet returning guests with like welcome home. Half the reason I loved Mr. C Miami and Coconut Grove is because you feel like family there. Like I said, when I went back there a year later, it was the same people working the front desk. So that's the payoff to great service. People come back year after year, even if it costs more, because they feel taken care of and they feel like they belong and they feel like it's family and like they're home. So I think that's a huge part of customer service. And unfortunately, on to my next part of this, I feel like it's something that's sadly been very lost and we don't interact with each other the same way anymore. And if you think about it, and if you think about all the places you go to throughout the day, whether it's your coffee shop or like a customer service call or going into a store, it doesn't really feel like people are taking care of each other anymore. And the people don't matter and the interactions don't matter. And real customer service has become this lost art. Like, people aren't even doing baseline things like greeting, eye contact, asking how a customer is doing, if they need help, going out of their way to help customers. And I really believe that we actually need it and it is so important. I mean, when I go out now, it's just really shocking to me when I go to places like Target where no one asks you how you are. I am checking all of my own stuff out through the self-help check line while a Target employee is literally standing behind me doing absolutely nothing. And none of the lines are open where people can actually check you out themselves. So it's very bizarre to go in somewhere and be doing the employee's job, but I'm like, I'm not getting paid for that. Like, I'm not getting a discount. And then when you go to look for something, the employees aren't asking you if you need anything. If you go up to an employee, they like don't know what they're doing. They don't know where anything is. It's a total inconvenience for them to help you out. It's just such a bizarre thing. And then you speak to somebody who's older and they're like, hey, how can I help you? What can I do? And it just happens so often. I mean, I went to a coffee shop the other day and I was shocked. I walked in there, it's this new coffee place. It was in One Loudon and no one asked me how I was. I went up to the front desk. I'm asking them about their menu. They don't know anything about it. They're not even looking me in the eye. They're like looking at each other. It's like I'm annoying them. And then they proceed to get my order entirely wrong. All I ordered was a cold brew. and they couldn't figure it out. I was waiting for my coffee for 20 minutes. One of the girls like dumped a thing of honey all over something. And rather than asking people to help her while she got my order, she literally told me to go wait while she like did this whole thing. Even though there are literally like 50 employees in this place. So there was plenty of people for her to ask for help. And then I was standing there watching her. She was trying to move something out because she didn't know what she was doing. And she just goes, you can go stand over there. You don't have to stand right here. And it was so bizarre. And I was like, okay, like I'll go stand over here. It was just such a weird moment. And at no point was she like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about the wait. Like, is there anything else I can do for you? I just have to, like, it was just, I was the problem. She didn't know what she was doing, but didn't feel like she had to. It was just really weird. And that is kind of like par for the course nowadays, which I think is literally insane. And there are just so many studies on how being taken care of and being made to feel important about how it calms your nervous system, about being the one who gives care actually lights up the reward part of your own brain. So it feeds both people, like it's me and it's you. And taking care of each other is a real human need, not like a soft nicety. And people are really starving for it. There is a study of 15,000 people, and a third would walk away from a brand after one bad experience, and they'd pay more for a good one. So we really are hungry to be taken care of, but like no one is doing that. And people are willing to pay money to have better service. So I think it's something interesting to take into account. And since being cared for matters this much, the effort we put into making moments special matters too. There's real science behind that. Rituals actually make experiences better. So, a small ritual before you eat or drink something makes it taste better and feel even more meaningful. And it's why a beautifully set table or a lit candle changes the entire thing. And experiences beat things. We get more lasting happiness from experiences than from stuff. And even the anticipation, the looking forward to, that all makes us happy. And you can look at that from, you know, Christmases or holidays. There's always a person in the family who's making those things special. And those are the things you think of for forever. Like when you reminisce on your memories, I'm sure a lot of them are special moments in time that were made special by somebody else creating the environment or hosting a party or putting together a really sweet dinner from you or like a surprise party for you. And all of those things matter. Even thoughtful gifts, when you receive something from somebody unexpected and it's this thing you were talking about like 2 weeks ago that you were like not even thinking about the person buying it for you and they show up with you, it just makes you feel seen. So a small gesture like that to another person is so important. And generosity as a gift giver too, it's spending on others makes you happier than spending on yourself. So these are the moments we keep in life are really all about these special occasions. And I mean, this is even personal for me because some of the best moments of my life came from someone making me feel special. My mom is the heart of that. Like, every moment in my life, whether it was a birthday or Christmases, she was the maker of those things. She made everything special. She made everything beautiful. She made Christmases so amazing. She made birthdays so special. She was so good at that. And I have all these wonderful memories growing up of my birthdays and of Christmas and of Thanksgiving and of Mother's Day because my mom took the time to make everybody feel good. And especially on my 23rd birthday, my parents took me to the Inn at Little Washington, which is a 3-star Michelin restaurant in Virginia. And I will never forget it. They served popcorn in this little movie theater box. Like we drove out, we got dressed up. It was like a 3-hour meal. I mean, the Inn at Little Washington is gorgeous and it's so fun and it's so theatrical. And to the point of 11 Madison Park, like you pay more for that experience, but it's so amazing and it's such a marker. And I will never forget that experience. And it was such a beautiful time with my family. And it's how the Inn at Little Washington made us feel that made it so special too. And those are beautiful moments. So I think it's just important to remember, especially in times where I think we may have like overcorrected and gone a little too far on boundaries and tit for tat. And I only do for those that do for me that giving is also really important too. Making sure you look somebody in the eye, asking somebody how they are. It's all important in how we interact with each other and it can make or break your day. And I miss going to the store and even having somebody who I'll never speak to again just be kind to me. You don't know what people are going through. And that could really be the thing that makes them feel good that day. And that could change the tone. It just seems like everyone walking around is always about to fly off the handle now. If we were just a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more kind, it makes all the difference. And I really just think we need it now more than ever. So I hope to do that with House of Undine. I hope to create spaces where we're really taking care of you and we're really making you feel good and making you feel like you're having these special experiences. And hopefully I'm able to implement that 95-5 rule where I am just doing the most with that 5%. So, anyways, that is a wrap up for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little something. And I will see you next week. Thanks for diving deep with us. If you like this episode, share it, rate it, and come back next week for more. This is Deep Dive by House of Undine, where peace meets power. The content presented in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to constitute professional advice of any kind, including but not limited to medical, legal, financial, psychological, or other professional services. Nothing discussed should be interpreted as medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of any disease, nor as a substitute for advice from a licensed physician, healthcare provider, or other qualified professional. You should not disregard or delay seeking medical or other professional advice because of something you have heard on this podcast. Always consult a licensed physician, healthcare provider, or other qualified professional regarding your specific circumstances before making decisions related to your health, treatment, medication, supplements, finances, legal matters, or lifestyle. If you believe you are experiencing a medical or other emergency, contact your physician or the appropriate emergency services immediately.